You know what that sound means? Back again. Welcome back to the Aim A Little Higher podcast with Kamal Ellis Hyman here, and I'm joined today
with Storm, as always. Do you know what? You're always on cue with that beat drop to introduce yourself.
I feel like it's deliberate.
Yep.
Want to do it properly. Oh man, I'm really liking that we finally, for those of you listening to the podcast, the journey this podcast has been on, I'm not going to do the maths on what episode we are on. I think we're on 50 something, I think. Sorry, it's done in post, not in advance, my bad. But this podcast started out with me, like years back, in the spare bedroom of mine and Liza's like first place that we rented, with that white blue Yeti mic in the corner and nothing else. So now to be like at this point where the studio's set up and stuff, it feels good. It feels like progress, which is awesome. So welcome everybody. Welcome. It's nice to have a tune to hit the drops with. How has your week been?
My week, it's Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly.
My week's been fantastic. Got a lot of work done.
Wednesday already?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, there's a lot in the pipeline with Aim A Little Higher, so very exciting things.
Seriously, like right now is so much planning and so much, I say planning, we're probably past the planning stage now. It's just like the implementation and execution of it.
Yeah. Which
is taking its time, but it will be so good when it's done. Especially like the shift in focus of actually it's not just about, hey, here's an individual person who does a really good speech. It's like, here's some really good programs that make a real genuine impact on your young people. Yeah. It feels good. It feels like it's about time, right?
There's a lot of thought into our workshops this time around with the rebranding and everything. So I think the kids are going to love it, really.
Yeah. It's one of those where I'm like, I'm glad we're on the holiday. I needed it because June, July was intense and we were everywhere. All over the country on different days and it was beautiful. But I'm knackered and I was like, August, breathe. But now we're in August, I'm like, we've got to do this. We've got to do this. Like today we spent the time putting up this backdrop. We've got like artificial grass outside and we decided that artificial grass would look better on the wall than the brick. So I like it. I think it's really cool. You used some transferable skills to pull it off, didn't you?
Yes, I did. For those who don't know, my first ever job, I think, was at Wix, the DIY store. So use my measuring and mathematics skills that I somehow acquired to do that.
How did you end up at Wix?
They were hiring.
Fair.
And I was like, I could do that.
And you interview well?
Yeah, I think I had a phone call interview first.
Okay.
And then the manager at the time was like, you know what, just come in. And I was like, okay. And then next thing I know, I was working at Wix.
There you go.
Thank you.
It feels like it's like I'm a little bit late to the party if you're getting the job, but I'm glad we can celebrate it with you. Fair play. So phone interview and then a in-person interview. Yeah. How do you find phone interviews?
I really like them actually because I feel like it's the first contact you're having with someone, but because you're not face to face, I think the pressure's not there, and you kind of have more time to think about what you're saying without someone staring at you from across the table waiting for your response.
Yeah, no, I understand that. What's your phone interview position, if you know what I mean? Are you like chilling out, sitting down on the sofa? Are you walking around? What's your stance?
I get really distracted if I'm not in front of somebody. So I have to be like ready to speak to someone in an interview. So I can't, like, you know when you guys, so if you don't know, when I'm at home, I'm in my at home mode and Kamal and Eliza will like video call me and stuff, got my bonnet on, like sat in bed, I'm just chilling. I'm like, I'm here, I'm present, I'm doing the work, but I'm going to be comfy. So when it comes to phone interviews, I have to like be in that mindset of, okay, this is an interview, let's focus properly. So I'm usually like set up at a desk or something, but no, it went well. I think it was because the management at the time was quite like very chill. Okay. So I think that's why it was easy for the conversation to flow.
Fair. I respect that. Sorry for the sound effects in the background. I know I said moving forward my sound's going to be off, but my daughter is sending me GIFs. Just GIFs.
Yeah.
I've closed that chat. Fair. But you like, so basically like you're relaxed
Yeah.
environment. Fair. I think I'm completely opposite.
Oh, you're just straight in
On the
with
phone, I'm up. Normally I'll go into the garden or I'll go walk down the street.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jamie, for client calls. I don't know
Fair.
why. As it feels like an interview every time a school's like, hey, tell us about your programs. So I'll normally be walking around outside. Sometimes I'll be stationary at the office, but it's very rare. Unless it's a
Yeah.
video call, in which case
Yeah.
I'm sitting down so you can see me walking around.
Makes
but
sense.
I might stand on the standing desk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're a very stand-up, walkabout kind of person. You're never in one like place
No.
for longer than a minute, ever.
That's probably a fair statement. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably fair. Yeah, you're right. And I don't even drink that much coffee. Imagine.
Yeah, you're on a decaf journey.
I'm not gonna lie.
Speed slipping.
It's Eliza's fault.
Oh,
So I was on my decaf
Right.
journey. Decaf life was going good, right? And then Eliza got a frappuccino. I got the same drink. And for some reason, she was like, come on, I'll taste mine because it tastes a bit weird. And let me taste yours. I don't know what decaf tastes like. So we
Yeah.
switched over and I was like,
you were pulled right back into the trap.
it's so much better.
Yeah. I feel like decaf tried too hard to taste like coffee, that it tastes more like coffee than coffee tastes like coffee. And it's very odd.
So it's got like no disguise.
No.
Yeah, it ruined it. So now I go and I've got this like dilemma every time I go. Do I stick with the decaf thing or do I
Internal
go back?
battles.
Yeah, but it tastes so good, so I've gone back. But how much coffee's really in a frap?
Not much.
Do you know what I mean?
Not much.
That's my excuse.
It's mostly just like milk. Anything.
That's my excuse. Nut blend milk, by the way. If you're gonna go Starbucks, it's the best milk they have.
Yeah. I've been converted
Yes.
from like normal cow's milk to oat milk by the Aim a Little Higher Code.
It's good though, right?
It's very nice, actually.
That's what I mean. Slowly, one by one.
Getting there.
Oh dear. So we've got this thing of like the transferable skills you use today, which I just think it's amazing because it's on the cover it seems so relevant. Working at Wix and then working at Aim a Little Higher, two completely different environments, two completely different goals. Yet the skills learnt here have been useful over here, extremely useful because it's now up on the wall
Yeah.
in a way easier way than I was gonna do it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, let's stick one big heavy piece on the wall and we'll just screw it in every corner. And you're like, no, what you do is you chop it here and you measure it out and you got the chalk drawing lines on the back. And do you know what I mean? But to get that job, you had to do an interview. Likewise with here. And I think when we hear the idea of like pitching, we assume it always is pitching like a business or in a professional sense. But actually, the examples you've given are pitching, but they're not to pitch a business. They're almost they are literally to pitch yourself.
Yeah.
Where did you learn about pitching? Where did you get the ability to be able to pitch yourself?
I took drama in school. So
Ah.
I think that's where it comes from. The standing in front of a stage and trying to present a character is where I kind of learned how to show characteristics through speech rather than like trying to just be animated. It was like, I've got a personality, how do I show that? I've got these skills as this character, how do I show that without saying I have this skill? It's like you got to show it through your body language or you got to show it. Yeah, so I think that's when I first learned how to pitch something. I think it became harder to pitch myself as me because I'd never done that before. And it was like, I always thought pitching was like sales.
Yeah.
It kind of is in a way, but I always, when I imagined what a pitch was, it was like, I've got this pen and I'm trying to sell it to you. How do I do that?
That classic.
Yeah, and it wasn't until later in life that I realised you pitch every time you meet somebody. Every time you introduce yourself, you're pitching yourself to that person. Anytime you're in a job interview, you're pitching yourself. And that's when it kind of made more sense to me that a pitch isn't always selling a product. It can just be introducing yourself.
That's so true. Like you're almost selling that person on why you're worth talking to or what you've got to share.
Why
with
we
your
should
idea.
be friends, why we should have this conversation, why you should hire me, like all the time. You're pitching yourself to people, even the friends that you already have. You're like, why should we continue this friendship? Have we got stuff in common?
It's like a constant test with you.
Yeah, always.
Brilliant. Oh dear. And I asked because obviously you know, one of the main things you did when you came to the company was look at what we offer and say, hey, here's where I think the gap is. And the gap was literally the program, the pitch, which takes a little bit of a different route where actually it is based around that more traditional style pitching. But you even had to pitch to get the pitch program put into.
Yeah, I had to pitch the idea initially, which had you guys confirm a time for me to even explain it to you. And then I had to explain it to you and then come up with a PowerPoint, and it was like a whole process of pitching the pitch.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of helped when I developed the workshop, because I was like, what did you guys make me do?
How did you find that process? Like, you're in a new company. I think you'd been here, well, maybe just over a month at that point?
I think it was weeks.
That sounds right. That sounds right. It sounds like you've been thrown in the deep end very quickly.
Yeah.
So you've been here for a few weeks, and now it's like, cool, bring something new to the table, have a look at what we do, what do you think? And you then have to pitch yourself in this brand new... In fact, it was in the internship change, so it was before you even like secured the actual job.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind? How do you approach a challenge like that?
I think it's intimidating at first, as it would be, because you're in a company with people who have already established themselves. You're used to a certain way of doing things. You've got things already in like the woodworks and things that you're used to. So the first thing is, okay, how can I make this sound as good as that? And how can I fit this in to an area that is needed? Because you guys had a pretty well established workshop, like you had loads. So with the pitch, I had to really think about why it benefits the client and the kids as well as the company. And I think once you kind of get out of the intimidation stage and you're into the problem solving stage, that's when it just snowballs. And then all of that anxiety that you're feeling, you're like, no, because I've thought about this now and I know what I'm talking about and this is valuable. So it's just getting through that first, I'm intimidated, they're not gonna like it, I'm just an intern stage.
Is that like was there a feeling of that initial fear of like, who am I to do this? Or was it, this role isn't the place where I should be doing this? Do you know what I mean? Where did that first bit of friction sort of come from in your mind?
I think it first came when I spoke to Eliza about it first. Okay. And then when it came to kind of speaking to the whole team, I was like, right, so now I'm not just convincing one person, I'm convincing everyone. And you all have things that you value or things that you're going to pick up on. So I need to think about the team. And that's where it was like, do I know this team enough to even have this idea? Like, I've just met these people. Who am I to tell them that they're missing something in their well-established business? But I think the good thing about the team is that everyone's always open to new ideas. Everyone's very welcoming with ideas. If it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it's not just a no, that idea's not good. It's always, we've got this, can you develop it in another way? Yeah. And there's always that kind of guidance. I think that was the safety net for me to be like, just put your idea out there.
Fair. So when you're looking at putting a pitch together, what's the journey? Do you go, right, here's my overview of the idea, how do I translate that to the audience? Or do you go, here's my audience, how do I communicate with them, and then work it backwards almost? Which way do you do it?
I think the best way is understanding your idea and really understanding it, not just having this vague thing that you know you kind of want to do. Establish what it is that you want to solve, first of all, and how whatever idea you've got solves it. And that way you know what you're talking about. Because if you don't know what you're talking about and you're sat in front of an audience, they're going to ask questions. There's going to be gaps. And then if you can't answer them, you kind of look like you haven't had that process, and then no one's going to believe what you're saying.
So it's almost starting with the problem, like the problem you're going to solve, how you solve that, why this is the solution. Yeah,
like really taking the time to have that understanding about the problem and the solution. And then all the practicalities kind of come afterwards, because once you know that, you know all the areas you need to cover. And then when you've got that, you can think about your audience, how to best relay that message to them. What questions would they ask you? Can you answer them? And then it all just makes sense in the end, really. It just comes together.
Fair. Yeah, I completely get where you're coming from. And it's funny, the idea of pitching to an audience. As you said, that I instantly saw myself like being younger and thinking like, how do I convince my parents that I want to go out without having done my chores yet?
Right.
Or like without having done all the chores, or all that kind of thing. And being like, right, where do I land this pitch? And it's like, hey, look, I've got A, B, and C to done. I've done A, but Anthony's just knocked on the door, and you know, Bobby and I'm down there, and Alex and Chris are there. So what I'm thinking is, if I go now, I'll get back by 6. And if I'm back by 6, that gives me an hour. Do you know what I mean? And like,
yeah, you had that whole thought process before you've even approached your parents. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're like, they're going to say this and I need an answer.
absolutely. And then it goes out even wider into like the time at school where there's certain teachers that you will pitch for an extension very differently
Yep.
to another teacher. There's certain teachers you want to move, like you really do need to know what problem does this solve, how do I make this person care about it,
Yeah.
and how do I make it feel like they're not losing by saying yes, like they are gaining.
Yeah.
And I think it got to a point for me where I got decent at it and I could talk myself into like 3 ice buns at lunchtime. Do you know what I mean?
Hustling.
Yeah, absolutely. But like,
Hustling.
I've got the ice bun. Can I get that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think you're right. It's in every single layer of life. I mean, I'm sure the podcast listeners have probably heard before about like meeting with Eliza, but like that was a pitch because
Yeah.
it wasn't
can
just
imagine.
like one day and she's like, oh yeah, no, it was like, hey, if you can't see yourself marrying me, having kids with me, don't waste my time. But then from that point, it was like 5 odd dates before even like a first kiss. It was like,
Yeah.
here's your chance to pitch. Who are you? What are you about? What's your character? And you're almost like selling yourself in that sense.
Yeah.
And even vice versa. That whole period was like, who are you? What are you about? Cool, like really gorgeous to look at, but what's the other levels? What's deeper? What are the layers? So I don't think you ever stop pitching. And,
No.
I mean, the kids, Hallie and Alicia are pitching.
They are the best hustlers I think I've ever met. Especially when it comes to food. They will convince you. I bought Hallie McDonald's today.
Literally, I came in today and everyone's sitting in the kitchen. Eliza's a car pulled out and Eliza's like, oh, he's here. And Storm went, yep, and stood up. I was like, oh, you're going home? Are you? We haven't done the studio yet, but like obviously something's got. You're like, no, it's McDonald's.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And then Hallie was like, she asked me earlier if I want a McDonald's, and I was like, no, I'm good. She's like, what about an orange juice? I was like, oh, I'd love an orange juice, but I thought she was gonna, I don't know, go away and bring back her pretend.
No.
She got you to get her a McDonald's.
Yeah, she got the McDonald's. She got it. She worked for it, so I can't complain. But she got it.
Hustlers. But it's so true. It starts from that age, right? Where you're pitching for food, you're pitching for
Yeah.
attention, I guess.
Yeah.
And it continues to go up. Pitching to be on a sports team, pitching to be in the debate, whatever it is, and it continues. So I think when you get to an age where someone says, hey, you need to do a pitch, the panic I see always makes me laugh a little bit because I'm going, I know this seems like a really scary idea that you've now got to do a pitch in front of real life businesses, but you've been pitching forever.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing pitches since you were 3-4 years old, and now you just need to pitch your idea for a business to this person or your idea for a solution for their business to the person.
Yeah.
It's the same thing you've been doing. It's just a slightly different environment. And if you can shift that perspective, you become a really good communicator. And
Yeah,
it's
of course.
engaging to watch rather than running from it and feeling like it's this whole big blown up thing that you're not prepared for. Because you'll probably be right if that's the way you're thinking.
Yeah. I think it's that intimidation, isn't it? Like the knowledge that, okay, I'm trying to convince you now and I'm consciously trying to convince you now. And it's almost like when you're trying to convince someone, you put them on a pedestal. So automatically you think they're above you. And that's when you start to feel that anxiety of, you don't care what I have to say because you're above me and I'm below you. And I'm trying to convince you. But you've been doing this your whole life. It just becomes second nature because you're not consciously thinking about it. Like, how many of you have asked your parents for an extra £1 for school lunches? And they're like, for what? And then you're like, oh, for da-da-da. That's still pitching.
Yeah.
It's just not, you've not put that pressure on yourself, really. And that's what it is.
And sometimes it even shifts into negotiation when I think about it as well. Like, it's bedtime. Can I have 15 more minutes? And, you always start higher than you actually want. Like, I know I need 10 more minutes to finish this game, but, can I get 50? Can I get 20 more minutes?
Yeah.
No, definitely not 20. 15? You can have 10. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're like, yes.
That's a very good sales tactic. Very good sales tactic.
For real. And it just spreads back out into life. So I think this is like a skill that everybody's got. It's just, how do we now